Good afternoon. I am Justin Russell. I am the Principal Director for the New York Center for Foreign Policy Affairs. Uh, Joining me live from Beirut is Georgi Kafuri. He is the Operations Manager for Tactical Reports. They are an independent news, media, and research firm. He is the Operations Manager, and he's joining us from Beirut, Lebanon. Georgi, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Uh, we've all seen the pictures. We've all heard the reports, but what I wanted to talk to you about, being there on the ground in Beirut, seeing it on a daily basis, is I kind of wanted to get your experience and kind of get a personal aspect of what happened about a week and a few days ago when the over 2,000 tons of ammonium nitrate blew up in a warehouse at the port of Beirut and killed over 170 people, has displaced hundreds of thousands who have been left homeless, injured thousands upon thousands. I guess the assessment of the damage is still being done, but I think we need to get the reality of not only what happened and what you felt, but what's happening currently and what the future looks like. So again, let's start with the day it happened. Georgia, you were in Beirut when the explosion happened. What did you see?
So actually things have started like in a three phases. So the first one was smoke at the port, the port of Beirut. So you could see a smoke for around like it's a heavy fire for around 10 minutes. And then afterwards, so I would say like those who were closer to the port, to Beirut port, like we're seeing some fire that you could see in your own eyes, and then you can hear and then you hear like a blast, like an explosion, and that was the second one. And then 5 or 10 seconds later, I mean, the time that you hear this, the first explosion, you see a big the mushroom, the mushroom. Cloud, and then 5 seconds when it starts reaching Beirut and the regions and the areas close to ports of Beirut, you can feel the shock waves that were so strong, I would say, and so heavy that actually they did the blast that everything was seeing. So it was a huge one. It was like a three phases explosion, and it could and it quite reached Cyprus and most of the regions in Lebanon, even very far and the suburbs and every far of the territory of Lebanon could hear the shockwave and the blast that took place.
Did it? How far were you in estimating? Were you from the port of Beirut, the warehouse, and the actual explosion site?
Yeah. So as a line of sight, you can see it, but I am quite, I would say, 20 minutes away from the city by car.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it something that you felt? Did it do any damage to you or the area around you when
Well,
the
actually, I
second
live.
explosion?
Yeah, so I quite live outside of. I am within the region, but outside of Beirut as a capital city. But yet you can hear the explosion like they just happened right in front of you. And I was always wondering, like the people that were very much closer to Beirut, to the port of Beirut, like you have main regions, which is Mar Mikhail, and you have the Jumeirah, which are like the main separator would be a highway between the port and these regions. So I was always asking myself, if I heard it like this, what did they experience and what did they feel and what actually happened and what was their reaction? Everyone thought at first it was some bombardment. It was some maybe very fighters, maybe flying at a very low altitude, like it was passing above our heads. So everyone was
Right.
moving like under the tables because some people thought it was an earthquake, some others thought it was, as I was saying, like there was a certain attack maybe, and everyone was under their tables trying to cover people, covering their kids. And the good reaction is so many people were staying away from their windows, since you can feel that there was something that's gonna explode and they're gonna uh, 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 kick stuff out. And the ones or the people who were living in Beirut, I mean, they didn't have the time to react, and it was
Right.
it was a glimpse of seconds that everything it's less than 3 seconds that Beirut was really like into, I would say, into ashes, or getting this reaction from the blast, like windows, glasses all over the place, wooden doors like falling on people's heads, people trying to run away, not knowing if something else is gonna happen, what's gonna take place right now. So it was really like a complete chaos, and people not knowing where to go, where is it safe. Can you ask yourself where is safe now under such circumstances? And that was, I mean, the thing that's really hard to to absorb. And I cannot feel the way that the Beirutis are currently feel, but I know that um, I mean, at least mentally speaking, they are still feeling the shockwaves. They can still hear the glasses in their heads. They feel like if they are crossing the streets, if they are at home or at their offices, they would be afraid that something is gonna fall on their heads. They care about their parents. They don't know what's happening to them on the night of the disaster. It was like a war. It was like a war scene, like
Right.
kids or parents in the hospitals not knowing their relatives where they are. And you can hear on the TV like the reporter saying like, we have this guy or this girl or this I mean uh, at this hospital. If someone knows, if someone is looking for them, they are at this hospital. It was like a war zone,
Are,
like no one's
are
knowing where
they
everyone is.
right? So Georgie, are there are still many unaccounted for? Is is this now a search and rescue operation? Is this now a recovery operation? Are they? Is there still hope in Beirut that they still, after this amount of time, might find survivors in the destruction?
Actually, yes. So, like countries, I mean, from all of the places like France and the United States, even so many European countries, so many Arabic countries like Saudi Arabia or the UAE, they are all putting their hands into the search and rescue operations. They can still find people under the destroyed stuff, and trying to rescue as much as possible. It's a whole port that got demolished, and so many places that yes, they are still trying to find I would say people down there. But it's quite 14 days, I would say. Yes, we are actually at 2 weeks from the blast from now. So I just hope there will still be survivors, but I'm afraid, yes, the number has been quite known for now, that the ones are missing. Well, actually, 3 4 days ago, they just found someone, and they found a car in the sea. So as the shockwave, and due to so the port of Beirut is like from one side on the sea, definitely. So what happened is, and estimations say, like, if there was no, I mean, half of the shockwave went into the sea. So just imagine if this blast took place in the middle of the city, it could have been
Oh, it
really,
could have been much worse.
yeah,
Much worse.
definitely.
Um, what now? You've since been down to the blast site, I believe, or down to the area around the port of Beirut in that area. Describe to me the most impacted area down by the port. We know that, like you said, it happened down at the seaport. there was half of the blast radius went out into the Mediterranean and out into the harbor of Beirut. But the other half on the other side of the highway, is that primarily commercial office space, residential offices? Is it industrial? What is the area closest to the port of Beirut like, and how impacted is the area? How accurate are the pictures that portray it?
I'm gonna tell you two things. One, so Beirut ports, like the next region, I would say, is Mankhayel and Gemmayzeh. So these two main regions are residential places, and at the same time, it's a whole street of bars and restaurants. Um, I would just let you know if we were talking like if it was with no corona and no pandemic and no economic crisis, and you cannot imagine the number of tourists and the expats that would be at this time at 6 p.m. It's a complete like the time for happy hours and people leaving their offices, going out, and people coming from outside the countries. They would believe me, these streets would have been full and full of people. I cannot imagine if this thing had happened in like normal days, since most of the people now, due to the economic crisis that we have, were leaving the offices much lesser than 6 p.m. since 6 p.m. is a rush hour, and the highway which passes right next to the seaport is a main highway of people leaving Beirut city and going to the mountains or going back to their home. And at 6 p.m. it's one side, it's the rush hour of people getting back to their home, and from the other side would be like expats and tourists visiting Mount Khail and having some drinks. And over there, I cannot
So
imagine if this place would, if this blast would have taken at this point in time. The things were really catastrophic to the extent that I cannot imagine what could have happened.
so oddly enough, the pandemic might have saved lives in this instance, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that the little blessings, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about um, let's talk about a subject you brought up as one of the factors. Obviously, the pandemic might have spared some lives because everybody was staying home. They were working from home if they could. It didn't have the usual traffic in that part of Beirut when the explosion happened. But there's another exacerbating factor that isn't getting a lot of reporting, and that is the economic crisis, both as a result of the pandemic and coronavirus, but also with the increased inflation, et cetera. Is that hampering? Is the financial crisis a hamper to the actual possible recovery in Beirut, or is the recovery something that could be a rebirth of Beirut in a new Lebanon in a new time?
Um, and Justin, what I can tell you is the economic crisis is, or let's say the economy is really bad. We are in the darkest, I would say, period of this economic crisis. Definitely what happened with Corona is, and the pandemic of COVID-19 added so much, I mean, very bad consequences to the economic crisis. And I have to tell you, like today, the government took the decision of another 2 weeks of total lockdown, due to the blast the last 2 weeks. So everyone was in the streets, everyone in the hospitals, everyone's helping each other. Definitely, there were certain, I mean, the safety measures were taken, but you cannot imagine like the density of people. Like, I mean, I don't want to sound in a bad way, I would say, but you cannot do social distancing when we have so much young people doing initiatives and going to demolished places, helping elderlies and helping people. So this added so much of coronaviruses that we jumped We were like during the couple of weeks ago, we were at, I would say, 50 or 60 cases per day. Today we are at 500, at 450, 500. So this is not something that we can afford, neither the government can afford. Um, Adding to this, the economic crisis, I would say we are blessed, I would say, to be surrounded by countries from the US to France to European countries to the other side of the world doing, helping us, and I would say not investing, but at least sending aids to our country, since it's really hard to do this, to go out of this crisis. But I can assure you for one thing, that Lebanese people are resilient people and will definitely gonna reverse from everything that's currently happening. And the unity of the of the Lebanese people, and especially in such crisis, will definitely help us go out of it. But definitely we cannot do it alone, and we have to be thankful for neighboring countries and for the other ones that are putting their hands or helping
Right.
Lebanon going out of this crisis.
So, Georgie, you're talking about the the initiative of the young people and the strength of the Lebanese people, particularly in Beirut. Um, the I guess the question is, right after the blast, we saw demonstrations against the government. Um, Tell me, was the demonstrations against the government seem to be spurned by the explosion and cause the resignation of senior government officials in Beirut? Where's the anger coming from? I mean, are the residents of Beirut placing blame on the government for the explosion, or was this building up over time and this was just the last straw?
Mhm. Yep. Just to do some background, and I think just to make sure we're aligned. So in October, a revolution started in Lebanon, which and
Right.
actually in Beirut, where people and all the Lebanese, I would say, society was really fed up of what was actually happening, and several policies that have been implemented throughout, I would say, the past period, and not definitely pinpointing at any entity here, but definitely the situation was really bad, and we are currently facing the consequences of all these policies, or even all these tensions and all these bad policies put into place, and we're currently like paying the price. Definitely, it was a build-up, and we reached to a point where I can tell you that if we want to forget the economical part, well, human safety always comes number one. So, irrespective of what happened there at the seaport, um, people were really enraged to the point that no one was seeing what was actually, maybe we don't want to go into the details, but it was a build-up. It was a build-up that reached to a point, to the extent that their safety was on the line. Now it was no longer, I mean, surviving economically is really surviving. Surviving if they don't know what's gonna happen to them, and their safety is at hand here. So definitely the reactions are definitely something that we have to, and we understand, and we are part of this, and we should keep on pushing, since what happened is really, I would say, something that we cannot, and we have to acknowledge that something wrong happened here, and Beiruti's safety and all our safety, like you put people have lost their houses, and people have lost their relatives, maybe their sons or their girls or their parents or their friends or their colleagues or their peers, whatever. We're talking about our safety here in our own country, and we don't want to leave our country, even though now definitely immigration is taking place and people are leaving. But uh, 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 we have to react. Something should have been done and something needs to be done, and that's why we went to the streets. And just to say that uh, it's now our lives at stake. It's maybe no longer the economic crisis. It's no longer this party or this. We are talking here about our own safety.
So let's stay on that topic for a second, Georgie. We've heard from Western leaders, including French President Macron, who was one of the first world leaders to show up in Beirut to offer humanitarian and financial support in the response and the recovery of this tragedy. Um, we've heard through several sources that this uh, could be the beginnings of a major humanitarian crisis. Uh, is that accurate? And what is the current humanitarian situation in Beirut now? Is it dire, or are we seeing the resiliency of the Lebanese people really come together and unify and support each other?
Yeah. So as I was saying in the beginning, so these initiatives that came from, I would say, non-profit organizations, um, really like if you stay on your screens and on your social media, you can see like all this demolish that took place, and people holding each other, like running to a certain hospital or running just for safety or running for any help and for any support. And when you go to the streets and you see all these young people helping each other, this gives you like a push, and this gives you a support that no one's leaving his brother or his sister. We are all here. We will remain resilient. We will help each other. No one's gonna leave their places. We are all gonna stay in Beirut. We're gonna rebuild Beirut. We're gonna be resilient. We're gonna stamp our feet and not leave Beirut. We're gonna help rebuild it. Definitely from a humanitarian perspective, while the numbers are estimated like 300,000 people have lost their home or doesn't have a place currently to stay, but due to the help and the support of the Western countries or any country that just sending their aids, they're gonna put in place, some areas where can people go and sleep and try to stay as much as possible, like near real life, and they're gonna try to help them the time they will be able to rebuild their houses. So there is no crisis, I would say, but there is definitely help that is needed at this stage and at this point in time. And we have to be thankful for these countries that are currently supporting us in our recovery.
You looking towards the future,
Yep.
does Beirut become better? Does it become a stronger? Does it become a more peaceful city, if you will? Are the outside players able to put aside their political differences and just say, this is for the people of Beirut, this is for the people of Lebanon, let's concentrate in rebuilding it better and stronger? Is that what the future holds?
Justin, what I can tell you, that will definitely rise. We'll definitely rebuild our country. Um, I want to tell you one thing. I think at this point in time, what happened was really a turning point. It was not something to neglect. It was something to acknowledge. Um, we we will remain. There will definitely be political differences. This is for sure. It happens in any country. This is for sure. But what happened currently is really like a deviation in at least I would say in the officials' minds. Like Beirut need to remain a calm city. Beirut needs to rebuild itself and re-attract more tourists and re-attract its own population to stay inside the countries. You cannot imagine the talents and the people that we have here in Lebanon that are currently even outside of Lebanon or are thinking of leaving, but these talents need to remain inside Lebanon and inside Beirut, and they need to help. You cannot imagine the number of initiatives of young people, of groups of people that united to help rebuild their city. They're gonna put at very, I would say, maybe supportive prices, or even at below cost, just to help and just to fund everything that's gonna need to rebuild. But let me tell you one thing, and I hope like the public is not missing this point, and all these countries are not missing the main point is, mentally speaking, the Beirutis will need someone to help. Definitely, we need maybe some medicine, or even some concrete to rebuild, or some glass to put on our doors, or some wooden on our windows. I don't know, but we need mental support for people. I have friends of mine, Justin, who can still hear glasses falling on their heads. Yeah, they can still feel they are afraid of walking into the streets. But this support and this help is much needed, and this what will help us rebuild our country, and we will be able to do. I'm not gonna say a new capital. We're just gonna do again this capital, and we will make it attractive. We will make it peaceful. I told you this is a turning point. Definitely, this is a turning point. I hope it will be at the political level as much as it will be on the public level, since all the countries are currently united to help Lebanon and to help Beirut rebirth and recome from its ashes, and whatever happens. And we will be receptive, and we will be absorbing, and we will be attracting all this help and all this support, and within and with our resiliency we will be able to make Beirut the capital once again.
Well, the last question I have for you, Georgie, and again, I appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us on this. Um, I've always grown up hearing about the Paris of the Mediterranean, Beirut being a city of lights and a city of life. And then in the 80s and the 90s, during the political troubles and the destruction that happens as a part of civil war, eh, we started seeing a rebirth of Beirut in the late 90s, going into the new millennium in the 2000s. I guess my question is, do you foresee Beirut being the Paris of the Mediterranean once again?
Um, this is something that if I do not foresee, this is something that I will be looking for. Um, at a personal level, I'm staying here, and I will do as much as possible to help my, I would say, the capital rebirth again. And let me tell you one thing: within all the small society of friends and colleagues that I have, and these initiatives that I have talked to you about, and when you go to the streets and you're gonna see like really like 15 years old to, I would say, 40 years old, whoever can help and can assist, they are not doing it for nothing. They are doing it um, to help their brothers and sisters within Beirut city. No one is being left behind. No one will be left behind. We will do our best to stay here, to rebirth this capital. And I hope just that my all my other friends and the ones that I know and the ones that can, I would say, influence, or these several circles of friends and colleagues and peers, and whatever do I have in my society, um, we have the same face, and we did not leave the streets leaving anyone behind. We will stay and we will rebirth it. It will, if it isn't Paris of the Paris of the Mediterranean, then it would be something very nice. It will be something that will keep its talent within it, since Lebanon really needs people to stay within it. If you go and search for Lebanese people, you're gonna see they excel in whatever places you put them in, internationally speaking, and wherever they go, they will excel and they excel. And it's sad to see that these talents are leaving the country, but uh, we will not, I would say, as I told you, on a personal level and within my community and my society, we will do our best to remain here and to help our people rise up again.
That's fantastic. Georgia Kavori with Tactical Reports joining us from Beirut. Uh, thank you so much. Our thoughts and our prayers and our support continue to go out to you, your family, your friends, and obviously the Lebanese people. So once again, Georgie, thank you for taking the time to talk about this.
Thank you for having me, Justin. And just one last word to my fellow Lebanese
Of
citizens and
course.
Beirutis. So we showed the world that we are resilient, and it's known about us that we are resilient, and we will remain the way that the whole world sees us, and we will rise again as long as we have the faith in our country.
Well, that's a wonderful last word. Georgie, thanks again.
Thank you, Justin. Bye bye.